Good afternoon, dear friends. One more time, closing in on the weekend. So thank you for still being with us at these late hours. This will not be a long session. I will just go through in a conclusion type of approach with the things that have been handled during this week, especially regarding the program requirements and project planning and applying for a project. And while you are watching a map of our beautiful program area, I will just repeat that it's still possible to ask questions. Please use the chat function if you have any remaining questions from this week and these sessions, or specifically regarding this last tips session. So use the chat if you have those. And also I want to repeat that this small presentation, like the previous big ones, will be available for you during next week on our or via our website centralbaltic.eu. So please log in there and refer to whatever presentation or recording you would find useful. But as I said, I will quite quickly go through the tips that currently I have in mind regarding applying from our program. First of all, you should get to know us, be interested in us. What are we and how we work at the Central Baltic Programme? So this basically means that you are aware of the program geography, what are the program areas that are eligible and from where you can apply. And for example, what kind of support rates we have for projects and partners. As you may remember, in the future, the ERDF support rate will be 80% for partners from all of our member states and Åland as well. And also the budget limits, for example, are important. So remember the maximum 4 million total budget for a project and a maximum of 2 million for a partner budget total in this programming period. And we are all the time making and developing our guidance. So always when you have questions, I would ask you to refer to the written guidance that we have on our website, or these presentations and recordings that you have also or will have access to. And if you don't find the answer from these guidances, then please do contact us at the Joint Secretariat and ask your question directly, or if you need interpretation of something, then do get back to us. We will try our best to help you forward. And you should also know that we first and foremost want you to contribute to the program indicators, to the program goals. So you should be aware of those, what they are and what is needed for the contribution. We are a cross-border cooperation program, so we definitely want your project to create cross-border added value. I think in this context, the good question to ask yourself is that why cannot I do this thing by myself or in my country alone? That's a good question, and if you feel like you don't have the answer, and you start feeling like, well, we can do it only with our own forces, then maybe the cross-border added value is not so strong. But you should be able to justify why you need the other countries to join your project to achieve the best results. This is important. Prepare a logical work plan where you have all the necessary steps coming from the challenges of the project towards the actual implementation and activities, and then leading on to result. This should be a logical chain of things leading to the change that you originally wanted or planned to achieve. Also good to remember that the project must create impact to the program area. That is very important. The sentence about the change in partnership rules in brackets refers to the fact that in this period it is possible to have partners from other EU member states also, but this would be an exception, and it also involves a bit more complicated preparation process with the negotiations with the JS and MA, and as obviously we don't have, for example, the staff cost, unit costs defined for any other countries than those in the program. And even in those cases, if you end up in this kind of solution, remember that the impact always needs to come to the program area. And yeah, really try to make a change. So don't apply for funding just to get money, but really just because you have an ambition to make some kind of change with your partners in the Central Baltic area. And of course, the change should be a positive one, definitely. Regarding planning, some short points that have come up during the presentations. Start early. If now referring to the starting date of the first call, 10th of February, I would say that it is still quite early, maybe not super early, but still early enough to start the planning and involving your partners, of course. So plan together, do joint work from the very beginning, and plan a good project, and you will be ready then in February, March to transfer your good plans into the application form in GEMS. And when in planning, consider also the needs of your target groups, not only achieving the change for your organizations, those who are partners, but really considering who are the final beneficiaries, end users, and make sure that their needs are also considered. On the other practical side, we have the idea form, which I would really encourage you to fill in at an early stage when you know the basics already about your idea and how you would move on. It is found from our website, of course, and including the contact information of those people who will then be happy to read it and provide comments for that. And maybe after the initial comments, or even right away, you can agree with our thematic experts a consultation time where you will get the more closer feedback, and you will have possibilities to discuss directly about your project idea and its suitability for the program. In the current situation, I think many times these will be Teams meetings or phone calls, but that's how it will mostly go right now. Let's see what the future then brings. Maybe, hopefully a bit better. Also, it's important then to consider the feedback that we give you on your project idea, and take that into consideration when you are planning further your project contents, activities, and directions. Remember also when applying, when filling in the application form, and already before, don't trust GEMS to be the planning tool. That's not what it's meant for. It's only meant for filling in the application and applying for funding. So rather use other tools for funding, and then just transfer the information to the GEMS application form when it is opened. And we will give you further guidance regarding GEMS practicalities then later when the opening of the call comes closer. And always, I think this refers to the application, but also the idea form, which I mentioned. Keep the texts short and concise. You don't need to provide extensive background information. Just give short justifications on the topics you have chosen or the activities you have chosen, and try to avoid repeating same information under different points in the application form or in the idea form. Focusing on the most relevant things and justifications will make it much more easier for us to give you proper feedback and get right to the point with things. When planning, remember that the budget and activities go together. They need to be coherent. Make sure that you have reserved enough resources to do everything that your activity plan indicates that will be done. When or before submitting the application form, check that you have all but also only the necessary attachments added. So this is important. If you add any additional attachments, they will not be considered in the assessment. If there is something absolutely vital that you need to include, but you cannot include in the application form itself, then contact us before, so we can discuss and agree then in what form the information will be delivered. But first and foremost, use the application form text fields. They should be the place where we find all the necessary information, and the attachments are then rather more technical things that were elaborated just a while ago in the previous session. And maybe just to say still about the filling in the application and describing things, I think it's a good guideline to try to be also simple, like writing to your grandmother, so that it's very understandable and as simple as possible. We have in the JS, of course, technical experts who will probably understand what you mean under each topic, but then we have also the monitoring committee members who will eventually read your applications. They are very knowledgeable people as such, but may not be the experts on this specific thematic issues. So try to avoid these very technical things also in the application texts as far as possible. And yes, everything is electronic. When you submit, you don't need to send us any papers, and nothing but attachments to the GEMS application form. So that is the only place you will be needing to add any materials when you apply. Well, submit early, like I was urging you to start planning early. Submission should also be done early, not during the last days of March when the GEMS is closing, because you really want to be on the safe side. It's an electronic system. It will close at a specific second, and after that it's no longer possible to edit or well, edit, yes, but not submit anymore the application form. So that is a chance lost if somehow you leave it to the last minute and then something comes up. For example, there are pre-submission checks that you will have to make to the application form. And if you start doing this at the very last minutes and you then get some kind of error message that there is still some missing information somewhere, you are not able to submit until you fill in that information. And if you have 2 minutes submission time left at that point, then I think there will be panic, and the submission might not be successful at that point. So really really make sure that you are prepared and doing things in good time. Regarding the budget, maybe one thing I would wish to remind you on is the understanding of the simplified cost options, what they mean, how they work, and refer to our program manual on these issues. These are important to understand. This is probably the one of the biggest changes that we have now for this program, and functioning differently than the real costs that have mainly been used before. So I think my short list of tips is hereby concluded, and I think more tips will follow when we get further and have the chance of looking into the GEM system a bit more in the future. But the floor is still open for questions if there is something in the chat. So please still use this opportunity before we let you go towards the weekend.
Yes, absolutely. Use the opportunity. Very good tips by Samu, and there are a few questions that have come in meanwhile, and we will have time to go through any others. So there's one question, I think maybe you said in your presentation, because there's a quote about fill in ideas, and then there's a question, how widely will this fill in ideas be distributed?
Now, I must say I'm not sure what the question actually means. If it refers to the idea form, then there we have the very basic questions, I would say, regarding the contribution to the program result indicators and program goals, and description of the cross-border added value, and basic questions of who would be the partners, what would be roughly the budget, and what kind of structure, namely the work plan, would be in place. So what would be the logical sequence of activities that would be taken in the project. So general descriptions of these things are included there, if that was the meaning. If someone who presented the question wants to clarify, then you are welcome just to unmute and contribute, but that's according to my understanding.
Yep, if no complementarity, then we take it that you answered the question, but there's more. So one question is, how many projects were, maybe you can tell how many were financed in the, or maybe the question is, how many projects do we expect to be financed from the environmental part of this program? Yeah.
Ooh, that's probably the most difficult question to to answer. I don't think we can really estimate an exact number. I mean, we have a bit more than 52 million euros for these environmental parts reserved, and well, I don't know, maybe 40 to 50 projects would be something, or 30 to 50, depends completely on the project size and those kind of things. I don't expect much small projects, if any, under these, but that would probably be roughly my estimate. But there is no fixed goal for the number of projects that we want to fund.
Then there is another question related to numbers and the number of submission. This is actually a very good question. So the question is, can you submit the application only once in GEMS? And the person makes a reference that in other online systems, it may be possible to resubmit as many times as you need until the deadline.
Yeah, this is a good question actually. Yes, before the call closes, you will be able to submit only once. But there are then different phases that follow. And of course, firstly, we have for regular projects, first step and second step. And if your project is proceeding and approved for the second step, then you will actually be working with the same application that you submitted in the first step. So you will continue to fill in the same application form. And then when we have make decisions and we might have conditions for your project, that would be also one possibility when we can open your project application for changes. So you can elaborate on things, add things, fulfill the conditions. So those chances we have in the application phase and conditions phase. So it is possible, but if you submit the application, let's say you do the first step submission, then it's not possible after submission or after the call deadline to work with the application anymore until if you are approved for further things to the second step and so on. So I don't know if I was very clear or very unclear, but answer would be yes and no.
Yeah, I can just say I also thought it was a very good question. I have been myself involved somewhat in the development of the EMS and GEM systems, and we have also had a lot of discussion with other programs and their functionalities, or other monitoring systems from other programs and their functionalities. But this, at least as far as I remember, did never come up in the in the discussions where I was. So that is maybe something to be seen if it can be kept in mind for the future.
Yes.
Then there is a question: how many calls are expected to happen in this period in total?
With this, I would also refer to our website. You will already find there the indicative timetable for calls. Of course, it is exactly that indicative, so we will see how things proceed, but we already have plans for future calls. Now, I must say I don't remember exactly if we have already planned a certain number of calls.
I managed to check meanwhile. The current plan consists of 4 calls, but of course this plan is being updated a few times every year, and especially of course after funding decisions, because that's when we see how much money we have committed and how much is available, and the plan is adjusted accordingly.
Yes. So there is a plan, but it will be updated and no final numbers as such.
More questions. There's a question if it is possible to get any examples of previous successful applications to get an inspiration.
If you are talking about the concrete applications, I think we probably don't share the application forms from the past as such, but here I would maybe ask you to visit our website again, and there you can find the way to the previous program, 1420 program website as well, and there you will find our projects database where we have descriptions including results of all the projects ended and ongoing that we have funded in the previous period. So that would be my tip, to pop in there and see what kind of projects. Of course, all projects are not similar to those that we want to fund this period, but you will find similarities and things there. So that would be a good source for information.
And Kersti has just put the link to all the funded projects of the previous period in the chat, so you can easily get it from there. There was a specifying question on the filling in ideas that was discussed in the very beginning. And the question now is, how is the confidentiality protected of these ideas?
Well, those ideas are not shared, of course, and we are not putting them anywhere apart from saving them into our own files. We probably will look at them with colleagues, but we are not publishing any raw ideas anywhere or sharing them with anyone outside of the JS. So that is our procedure. And then the project and partners decide themselves whether they want to share, for example, to find new partners and move on from that. But we are keeping them confidential within the JS.
Yes, maybe I can even add that even afterwards, when the monitoring committee takes funding decisions, also they are kept safe and confident under confidentiality principles. So projects in their idea form are not public documents.
Yes, and it might occasionally be that we see that there are some similar project ideas that might complement each other. So then we, of course, have the possibility of contacting the lead partners and telling them that there is another project idea which is in the same direction, and asking whether these partners would be interested in contacting each other. But also then I think we would not share anything other than their contact information if they are both willing to discuss. But this is one case that came to my mind where we would then first ask from both and then put these people, organizations together if they so wish.
And if I now see correctly, then all the comments left are thank you. So it seems that we have answered the questions and no more have come up.
Good. Then I will just thank you once more and wish you a very nice weekend, and hope you'll let the project ideas brew and get in touch with partners and start planning, and importantly also contact us, let us know about your ideas and ask for our comments and feedback. But thank you very much for being with us for this session and for the whole week. I guess many of you have been participating to several sessions this week, and this is where the work starts. We are ready for your project ideas, ready to consult you, and please don't hesitate to approach us. Thank you very much.